Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're coming at you with This Week in Cannabis News from April 11th to the 17th. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, please just leave a like on it, as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this generational investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos, and then there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the industry on the ground, identify top companies that you keep seeing pop up, and take advantage whenever you feel ready if you wish to do so. But we're going to start with the big news that we got this week, that Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey has officially tweeted starting on April 21st, adults ages 21 and over will be able to legally purchase cannabis and cannabis products without a medical card from the approved alternative treatment centers. This is a historic step in our work to create a new cannabis industry. While this great news wasn't reflected in the share prices just yet, I do think it should not be overlooked because New Jersey has a population of 8 million, and this will allow many more residents on the East Coast access to adult use cannabis. And it is again the first domino on the East Coast that will fall this year, where we have Connecticut and New Jersey to follow as well. And on top of that, Tom Engel shares that just now, as of April 14th, New York regulators approved the first 52 conditional recreational cannabis cultivation licenses to prepare the market for launch later this year. And this is for New York, another state with a large population of 20 million. That will organically be added on as they do finally get this going. They also revised medical cannabis home grow rules to remove certain restrictions for patients. So I wanted to share this as we do have some big news out of New Jersey and New York, although again, it doesn't reflect in the price action. This is big, and it is just setting the stage for what we are going to see for the rest of the year. While this is the news that unfortunately we also got, but I don't think it's all bad news, as I wanted to share from Nats Fertig, who writes for Politico. Breaking: Senator Schumer announces he will introduce his cannabis decriminalization bill in August, not April as previously anticipated. So just to provide more color, she says, to clarify, the announcement says by August recess, not in August, as last year the draft came in July, and lawmakers do not typically say by August and then put something out in May, however. So expect something later on in the summer, but right now August recess is scheduled for August 8th to September 5th. And so what does this mean ultimately? No one knows. So plan accordingly for your own situation and your own time horizon. But what this tells me is that Schumer might realize what everyone else knows, is that CAOA does not have the votes to pass, and so he's got to pivot and work something else out. And so you can pause to read for more info here, but ultimately I just want to share what I think this could mean, and I really hope that he keeps safe in the AmericaCompetes Act, because obviously he realizes that all these minority entrepreneurs and small businesses need safe banking, but then he might pivot to something that would include the HOPE Act, allow clemency and expungements at the federal level. So this is Max Mausner's take, and keep in mind this is speculation, as no one knows what is going on in Schumer's head, but this most accurately aligns with what I think might be the reason for further delays. Spin Zone: Senator Schumer realizes that CAOA will never garner enough votes in his Congress, and that safe banking saves lives and is necessary for his constituents and New York social equity applicants. And so for this reason, he lets SAFE through as part of AmericaCompetes and uses CAOA hearing to garner political points before the midterms. Now, we don't know if this will be the case, but with any other high-risk, high-reward industry like the cannabis industry, it is wisest to plan for the worst and then expect to be pleasantly surprised at some point, because SAFE is still a matter of when, not if. And just to add on to that, this one from MJ Stock Trader, as there are several Senate Democrats that won't even support CAOA or more, as there are too much federal overreach or too many giveaways, as Arizona and West Virginia Senators Mark Kelly and Joe Manchin are two of the many Dems that will not vote for it as well. So another reason it can't get the votes, it will not pass, and this is why Senator Schumer needs to stop wasting everyone's time and move on to safe banking. And hopefully he's getting closer, because we've got more pressure building, as Todd Harrison shares. The Credit Union National Association has over 130 million members, and they continue expressing their support for the Safe Banking Act and its inclusion in the final Competes Act. So I wanted to share this. So it's great to see more pressure coming from the CUNA. But on top of that, we have states taking initiative because of the lack of action in Congress. Just now, the Pennsylvania Senate approved a cannabis banking bill. The state level move could add pressure on Congress to enact the federal protections that cannabis businesses are pushing for. And I've no doubt they're tired of waiting, and so that is why they're taking action. But we see that out of Pennsylvania, and we also see this out of New York, and they're acting quickly. As Senator CUNA in New York filed the bill to encourage banks to work with cannabis businesses by allowing regulators to share and confirm cannabis licensee information for financial institutions. And so while we've not seen states take initiative like this before, hopefully this means we're getting to that final tipping point where Schumer cannot ignore passing SAFE any longer. And so on to some state news, as Michigan reports cannabis sales grew just 5% in March. And so after 1.5% sequential gain in February, Michigan cannabis sales fell in total by 1% in March, growing 5.1% compared to a year ago to 153.2 million. And so we can see the chart right down here. But for more info, the Michigan Cannabis Regulatory Agency breaks out sales by medical and adult use, with medical sales falling 33.5% from a year ago to 32 million, but still up 23% sequentially, and adult use sales increasing 24% to 121.2 million, but down 6% sequentially despite 3 more days in the month. And so this is another way of interpreting that information, with the orange line reflecting adult use sales and the blue line reflecting medical. And as we know with Michigan, it is a very competitive state and it's an unlimited license state. So there's not a cap on the licenses, which means as many people can open as possible, which drives the prices down, which makes it very cheap for consumers. And obviously that means MSOs keep less profit. But at the end of the day, we do want to see a good balance where MSOs can make money and where consumers can find low enough prices so that they can keep coming back. And so that's another visual for that breakdown of how the prices are adjusting over time. But just to add, Michigan cannabis sales expanded 82% in 2021 to 1.79 billion and are up 28% thus far in 2022 already, as the program should continue to expand ahead as supply becomes more available and as distribution expands. While Colorado, the most mature market in the country, sees cannabis sales totals drop for the 3rd month in a row. So this is to be expected out of a more mature market, but nonetheless good to see sales remain strong and steady as cannabis sales in Colorado continued a downward trend in February, totaling 145 million, according to the state's latest market data. February marked the 3rd consecutive month of declining cannabis sales following a record-breaking year in 2021. The Colorado Department of Revenue's figures show overall cannabis sales in February were 3% below January's numbers and 13% below total sales from a year ago, while February had 3 less days than January. And so far this calendar year, 296 million of cannabis sales have been sold in the state so far, bringing the total sales to more than 12.5 billion since legalizing in 2014. Still very, very impressive. And so according to CDOR's data, retail cannabis sales totaled more than 124 million in February, while medical cannabis brought in another 20. And so that's another breakdown looking at the chart. And so do you anticipate that this chart will continue to slowly trend back up or trend down? Let me know in the comments what you think. I have no doubt that they will rebound and continue in an upward trajectory though. So we move on to Florida though. The Office of Medical Cannabis Use looking at this past week, and we can see dispensaries that were approved and opened from April 11th to the 15th. We can see Sortera Wellness open a new one in Miami and Trulieve open another location in Fort Myers. If we look at the qualified patient count for this past week, they increased their patients up to 707,933, which represents an increase of 2,764 patients week over week. So good to see Florida continuing to recruit patients to a non-addictive, safer medicinal alternative. While if we look at dispensations from April 8th to the 14th, we can see all the MSOs in Florida that sell, and we can see how many milligrams of THC that they've sold, how many milligrams of CBD, and ounces of smokable flower. So if you're invested in any MSO in the state, you can check week over week whether they're increasing or decreasing their market share to see whether they're staying competitive or losing out a bit to some of the other companies. On to some industry news is the U.S. cannabis industry's total economic impact to near 158 billion by 2026. According to the 2022 MjBizFactBook released today, projects that retail cannabis sales in the U.S. will surpass 33 billion by the end of 2022 this year and more than 52 billion by the end of 2026. And so the link to the MjBizFactBook is there if you wanted to grab it. The link will be below. However, they do have some highlights right here, so you can just pause to read if you'd like to find out what are some of the main points that this report highlights. While we've got this one from MjBiz Daily, several states still in play to legalize cannabis through legislatures. So I wanted to provide this one as we can take a look at states that are expected to pass something sooner than later. We've got Rhode Island and South Carolina. South Carolina for medical, I believe. Rhode Island for adult use. And then we've got possible states, Delaware for recreational, and then Kansas and North Carolina for medicinal, while Minnesota, New Hampshire, and Pennsylvania are worth watching for potential recreational reform. And on top of that, we know Ohio and Maryland will be putting the question to voters on the 2022 ballot. And so with that, just to add that there's so much potential once reform does happen in states, whether for adult use or for medicinal, the total addressable market expands as more Americans get access to legal cannabis in some form. And so some snippets from investment firms. And so again, this is speculation, not advice, but more information that you can use to compare with what you already know to make any decisions if you wish to do so. As this one is from BTIG on U.S. cannabis from Isaac Lightning Boltanski. And I think this is his update after learning about the delays. So he shares cannabis policy. Senate's comprehensive cannabis bill delayed until summer, but we remain bullish on cannabis banking in second half of 2022. So you can pause to read for this snippet here. Well, why they are bullish on cannabis banking, some of their reasons, and what legislative vehicles should they be watching to see that added into. So you can pause to read as well, or you can grab the full link below. Well, this one's from Bloomberg Intelligence. Bloomberg knows what time it is on U.S. cannabis, so thank you, Todd, again for sharing this so I can relay it. And so you can pause to read this snippet from Bloomberg Intelligence. Well, there is another visual down here, U.S. cannabis, U.S. multi-state operators, sales in the million. Just notice that's heading in the right trajectory, which is upwards. You can pause to read, or you can grab the link below. Well, lastly from Todd, just wanted to share this on the Elon Musk news. Hey, Elon, for $43 billion, you can buy every single listed U.S. cannabis company in the world. And it is true, and that would be a hell of a good return on investment once we do get this re-rating and once SAFE passes, which is again a matter of when, not if. And so lastly, doing a global round, High Times shares that a limited British study on cannabis and chronic pain is expected to be launched, which would be great news. But we'll get to the kicker, as up to 5,000 adults between the ages of 18 to 85 suffering from chronic pain will eventually be able to take part. But the question remains, why is there no formal trial scheduled? And so while it is positive that there might be a limited British study that will start at some point, there's no set date. And so while it sounds like the British are easing their views towards cannabis and relaxing those laws, hopefully we'll get an update from this I can share at some point sooner than later. While out of Greece, we have an update that medical cannabis is to be sold at pharmacies in Greece. So happy to share that Greece expects huge investments in the production of medical cannabis, which the government hopes would add up to 1.5 billion euros annually to state revenue. Minister for Development and Investment Adonis Georgiadis said. Speaking exclusively to Greek reporter, Georgiadis maintained that medical cannabis would be produced and sold in Greece beginning in 2022. So this is the first update. Hopefully we'll have some more out of Greece, but very happy to see another European state easing their laws and seeing this plant for what it is, a very helpful medicine. While we have this one out of Malaysia, Kini, and this is the first news I've seen positive out of Malaysia towards cannabis, so figured I would share it. While I don't have an article to this one, just to relay that the PM responded positively to Cannabis Caucus ideas. So we could potentially see some sort of reform in Malaysia, possibly, as the Medical Cannabis Caucus held an official meeting with Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob today, who they say responded positively to their ideas. And so that's all we have as of right now. But it seems in the statement they said discussions centered on the hemp side of the plant and medical cannabis, so certainly not recreational anytime soon. We're very happy to share that the most versatile plant we have on the planet is being further acknowledged for its multiple uses, as this week in New York, the International Code Council approved hemp lime, or Hempcrete, Proposal RB 31622 for the International Residential Code. And this is the first step toward the ICC's formal adoption of hempcrete as an officially recognized residential building material, as it is and as it can be used to replace other materials that might not be as sustainable, durable, or long-lasting. And so more uses we can find for hemp and for this plant, the easier or the more close we are to normalizing it and getting past the double standard that this plant has faced for so long. Well, lastly, just wanted to share this one from Research Square, as effects of broad-spectrum cannabidiol oil on behavioral disturbances in patients with dementia, a randomized clinical trial. And so, from my understanding, just want to share that each person in the trial received either avidecal oil, which was made up of 30% cannabidiol and 1% tetrahydrocannabidiol. And so that's essentially what avidecal oil is. And so just the conclusion in this randomized controlled trial, avidecal oil significantly, now keep that right, significantly, not just reduced, but significantly reduced agitation over placebo in patients suffering from behavioral disorders related to dementia with minimal side effects. And so from my understanding, when I read that, that means that cannabis works in this context. So further research is required involving various subtypes of dementia and a larger sample size, obviously. And so hopefully we can deschedule this plant sooner than later so that these further research studies can be conducted so that we can get the most versatile medicine on the planet as well available to more people across the globe. And that is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the stories mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address that. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I'll catch you on Wednesday for a midweek update. Have a great day, everybody.